Good morning, Acadiana. You're tuned in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media, in partnership with The Advocate, the Acadiana Advocate, and all those fine journalists over there. Uh, Bringing you the news every day, and we are here Monday through Friday between 9 and 10 a.m. bringing you the news, or rather, our volunteer readers are bringing you the news. And this morning, we are fortunate to be joined by Mr. Bruce Cohen. Bruce, how are you this morning?
Well, again, I'm breathing, I'm alive, the sun is out, and it's another good day in southwest Louisiana.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for reading the news this morning, Bruce. I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street.
You're more can easily spread the virus to parents, grandparents, and others who are more susceptible. After pleading with people and businesses to do better adhering to restrictions in recent weeks, Edwards said Monday the state will turn to more enforcement. The state has not shuttered any establishments for breaking the rules so far, he said, but that could change. Instead of waiting until the state receives complaints, Edwards said workers will go on proactive trips to businesses. If they don't fix whatever problems the state finds, Edwards said revoking permits certainly would be an option for us. The governor said he had no immediate plans to reverse the reopening and institute more restrictions, but he said that is on the table if the state starts to approach levels of hospitalizations that could overwhelm hospitals. That is something that could happen if we don't get back on top of this and reverse the most recent trends we're seeing, he said, adding, we are going to be more active now. The decision comes as the state experiences rising cases and hospitalizations in some regions. Has presented the results of gating criteria based on White House guidance on reopening before each reopening decision. Presentation made Monday showed rising cases statewide, along with plateauing numbers of COVID 19 like illnesses and hospitalizations. The White House suggests states experience 14 days of declines in all three categories to reopen. In recent weeks, the state has seen cases rise as total testing has dipped slightly, while the greater New Orleans region has fared better than others and is still seeing rising cases and COVID-19 like illnesses. Baton Rouge is seeing rising cases and plateauing COVID like illnesses. Acadiana is among those seeking a dramatic surge in new cases and is increasing in all three categories. The spikes are outplacing increased testing levels, officials said, after previously using testing to explain a rising caseload. Dr. Alex Billio, Assistant Secretary for the state's Office of Public Health, said the agency's strong recommendation to the governor was to remain in phase 2. Billio also said the state has not yet conclusively answered the question of what share of the population has been exposed to the virus and therefore may have immunity. In order for herd immunity, where infection levels are high enough to stamp out the virus's spread, at least 60% of the population needs to develop antibodies. Some serology surveys will soon be released in Louisiana, Billio said, and he indicated the results will show what similar studies across the world have shown. Rates of infections are below 10%, nowhere near the levels needed for herd immunity. That means the vast majority of us are susceptible to the virus. Louisiana began its phased reopening May 15th, the date Edwards ended the stay-at-home order that had been in place since late March. The state experienced one of the fastest rises in cases in March and April, sparking concerns that hospitals would run out of beds and ventilators for patients. After seeing a dramatic rise and almost equally dramatic fall in new cases and other metrics, the first phase of reopening allowed a limited number of businesses operate at 25% capacity. Phase 2, which began June 5th, opened more businesses and told businesses that remain closed they can submit plans to state regulators to possibly open in Phase 2 or 3. Edwards has not yet revealed what Phase 3 would entail. White House guidance for reopening, which Louisiana has largely followed, calls for unrestricted staffing of work sites, resuming visits to senior facilities and hospitals, opening of large venues like sit-down dining and movie theaters, to limited physical distancing protocols and increased standing room occupancy at bars, among others. Currently, bars are prohibited under the rules from allowing standing room occupancy and instead are supposed to have customers seated at tables like restaurants. But it's clear not all bars are adhering to those rules, and several around the LSU area have shut down on their own after outbreaks. The governor suggested people may be going into bars, having every intention of practicing social distancing. But one of the things that alcohol does is that it impairs your judgment over time, Edwards said. And so, if they stay there long enough and have enough to drink, there's a chance that they don't end up following the mitigation measures as well as they plan to. And right now, I'm going to read what is considered an editorial. This is a one person's opinion. It's in the paper today, and it follows up the coronavirus spread. And this columnist's name is Jeff Asher. He's a guest columnist, and his editorial is, and again, we don't usually read editorials, but I thought this would be in line with what is happening here in Louisiana as far as coronavirus is concerned. His editorial is entitled, "Evidence is Clear, Wear a Mask." Louisiana is charging headlong through phase 2 of reopening, and the most important piece of unsolicited advice I can offer is this: wear a mask. While some question the utility of masks, the evidence is clear. Experts and scientific studies clearly support face coverings as an effective means of preventing the spread of COVID-19. Universal adoption of this easy act would play a critical role in reducing the spread of the disease while enabling the resumption of many normal activities. The coronavirus is spread primarily via close contact between people. Numerous scientific studies have discussed this, such as a June paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of the Sciences. This paper looked at how COVID-19 spreads and tells us that airborne transmission represents a dominant route for the transmission of this disease. The greatest risk for spread, therefore, is when people are talking, singing, or yelling in proximity to other people. Wearing a mask reduces the number of air droplets that leaves a person's mouth, therefore minimizing the risk to other people. The scientific consensus regarding the importance of masks are strong. A preprint, not yet peer-reviewed, from Cornell University published in May, looked at the impact of masks reducing virus-laden particles in the air. This paper found that all face covers without an outlet valve reduced the front flow through jet by more than 90%. A paper published in early June in The Lancet analyzed 172 studies over 16 countries around the world and found that mask use could result in a large reduction in risk of infection because mask use by those exposed to infected individuals was associated with a large reduction in risk of infection. A paper published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society in mid-June reported on a model built to assess the impact of mask usage. It concluded that face masks used by the public, when used in combination with physical distancing or periods of lockdown, may provide an acceptable way of managing the COVID-19 pandemic and reopening economic activity. A late April preprint, primarily authored by a Hong Kong University of Science and Technology computer scientist, modeled mask wearing under different conditions. This paper found a near-perfect correlation between early universal masking and successful suppression of daily case growth rates and/or reduction from peak daily case growth rates. A paper published in Health Affairs in mid-June estimated the government mask wearing requirements in 15 states and Washington, D.C. may have averted as many as 230,000 to 450,000 COVID-19 cases between April 8th and May 15th. A preprint published in mid-June found that countries that encourage mask wearing through other cultural norms or government mandates saw slower increases of death early in the pandemic. According to the paper, countries with cultural norms and government policies supporting public mask wearing, per capita coronavirus mortality increased on average by just 8% each week as compared with 54% each week in remaining countries. Near universal mask wearing in public is the key to maximizing the tool's effectiveness. As April preprint notes, that public mask wearing is most effective at reducing spread of the virus when compliance is high. The decreased transmissibility could substantially reduce the death toll and economic impact while the cost of the intervention is low. The anecdotal evidence on mask wearing is just as strong as the scientific evidence. Consider the case of a hairstylist in Springfield, Missouri, who was diagnosed with COVID-19 in late May after exposing 84 customers to the disease over 9 days. But the hairstylist and all 84 customers wore masks, and not a single secondary infection was reported. Similarly, protests following the killing of George Floyd in Minnesota in late May have not led to an increase in cases there. The protesters were outdoors, and heavy mask usage appears to have diminished the likelihood of large-scale spread. Conversely, 2 recent outbreaks in Louisiana were tied to gatherings at bars and parties where masks were not worn and social distancing was not observed. An infected person's symptoms may take up to 14 days to show up, and a person may be infectious before they are symptomatic. Wearing a mask is a way to avoid both unwittingly spreading the disease or picking the disease up from another person. As the Proceedings of the Royal Society paper put it, my mask protects you, your mask protects me. The evidence is overwhelmingly clear. Wear a mask. And again, this is an editorial by Jeff Asher, who is a guest columnist to The Advocate. And just as an extended note to that editorial, what Scientists are finding also, and researchers are finding, that if you're not interested in wearing a mask, then a plastic shield, which is now available online or in a lot of stores, a plastic shield with a band that you put around your head, is also very good at not spreading or contracting the virus. Okay, moving on to other stories today. Well, first, let's read some public service announcements before we get to a few more stories. Festival Words hosts Piece of Hope virtual open mic. On Wednesday, June 24th, that's tomorrow at 7 p.m., the Festival of Words hosts Pieces of Hope virtual open mic on Zoom. For 15 years, the festival hosted the Grand Coteau-based event featuring writers, musicians, and storytellers. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the creative community will gather online, coming together as an act of hope, come to share or just to listen and enjoy. The 2-hour open mic presents 20 writers and musicians, each performing for 5 minutes. Performers are from Louisiana and throughout the U.S. region and the world. Make yourself a drink, grab some cheese and crackers, and sit back to enjoy some exquisite performances that will soothe, entertain, and enlighten. To join us, go to the Facebook page for Pieces of Hope Virtual Open Mic. That's PIECES of Hope Virtual Open Mic. The link to the Zoom Cafe will be available on the day of the event. Well, for more information, you can contact Martha at fowmartha@gmail.com or by phone at 337-804-2482. That's 337-804-2482. This free community event is suitable for all ages and is sponsored by the Festival Words Cultural Arts Collective. Camp Unique. Every summer, the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana hosts the greatest camp of all, Camp Unique. Camp Unique is suited for individuals with special needs. Camp Unique will be held July 13th through 17th for ages 5 through 13, and July 20th through the 24th for ages 14 and up. Fee will be $75, and the theme this year is Peace and Love. All Camp Unique sessions will be held at Lark's Acadian Village. Individuals of all ages have a blast participating in a camp that is specifically tailored to them. They get the opportunity to take part in activities such as art, fitness, karaoke, music, and dance, as well as getting a Camp Unique t-shirt and a snack every day. A highlight of Camp Unique this year will be the storytelling session by Chief Greyhawk Perkins, said Dreams Foundation Executive Director Danielle Watkins. As a recognized expert on Native American and American colonial history, Perkins has inspired many audiences over the years, sharing tales of ancient cultures as a tribal storyteller and as a teacher of various subjects in Louisiana's school system. The registration form for Camp Unique can be found on the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana website. That's dreamsfoundationaca.org. Volunteers are being sought at this time. If you're interested in volunteering, complete the application on the Dreams website under the Volunteer tab. For more information about Camp Unique, contact Danielle Watkins by email at Danielle, that's D as in daughter, ONIELLE at dreamsfoundationaca.org or by phone at 337-962-1609. Getting back into the news, family seeks justice in attack on gay student. Lafayette police say incident not a hate crime by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. Faith Roselle bolted awake from a nightmare about 6 a.m. on Sunday. Roselle, 26, dreamed she was being chased, that someone was trying to kill her. That woke me up out of a deep sleep, she said. My adrenaline was pumping. Roselle picked up her cell phone and noticed 10 missed calls from her parents. That's when she entered into a real-world nightmare she hasn't been able to escape. She learned through voicemail that her 18-year-old brother, Holden White, was hospitalized. Roselle assumed her brother had been injured in a car crash. Instead, Roselle would learn White had been mutilated and left for dead during a grinder date gone wrong. He is still fighting for his life at Lafayette General Medical Center. I was confused. I was frantic. I was vomiting, she recalls. Roselle and her family are calling it a hate crime because they believe the person charged in jail for the crime targeted White because he is gay. Chance Seneca, 19, was arrested on account of attempted second-degree murder in the case. He's being held at the Lafayette Parish Correctional Center with bail set at $250,000. Sergeant Wayne Griffin of the Lafayette Police Department said the incident is not classified as a hate crime. There were several indicators that point us to the direction that it was not a hate crime, Griffin said. I know the mom has been posting on social media. We've had all kinds of people calling the police department asking us to classify it as a hate crime. It's just because of the sensitivity of the case, we cannot go into any more about it, but it's not going to be classified as a hate crime. Roselle and her family have questioned authorities' reasoning. They believe White was targeted because he is gay. They also expressed concern that Seneca has a photo of Jeffrey Dahmer on his profile picture, as his profile picture on Facebook. Dahmer was the infamous serial killer who admitted to killing and dismembering 16 men and boys from 1978 to 1991. Roselle said her brother thought he was going on a date with someone he had been talking to on Grindr, a social networking app targeted to gay, bi, and transgender people. But instead he was tortured until he nearly died. In my opinion, this is nothing but something filled with hate, Roselle said. I feel just given who his profile picture was and the sick and evil things he did to my brother, this was absolutely a hate crime. Roselle and her mom expect to meet again with detectives at the police department this week to learn more about the case. But here's their understanding of the events that unfolded. White had been talking to Seneca on Grindr for about a week. White and Seneca planned to meet up in person on Saturday. Seneca picked up White at his apartment and took White to a residence on Maryview Farm Road in Lafayette. Seneca tortured White for an unknown amount of time. Seneca called 911 and said he had murdered a man. White was discovered in a bathtub with stab wounds to his neck, strangulation wounds, blunt force trauma to the back of his head, and cut so deep into his wrist that his hands were nearly severed. Lafayette police have not disclosed details about the incident, given a timeline of what happened, or offered a reason the case is not being classified as a hate crime. Griffin said a verbal altercation ensued, and Seneca produced a knife and ended up stabbing Holden in the neck. Seneca, who was not injured, is not expected to face any additional charges, according to Griffin. White is not facing any charges. Griffin said he was not sure if Seneca placed the 911 call Saturday night. He confirmed that Seneca was at the scene when officers arrived about 11:45 p.m. Saturday in the 400 block of Maryview Farm Road. Seneca was interviewed before he was put in jail, but police are not disclosing any details or motive at this time. Lafayette police do not expect to classify the incident as a hate crime at a later date, even though the family's account of what happened seems to fit the legal description. Excuse me. Take a sip of coffee here. Thank you. Fit the legal description. Hate crimes, which are often violent, are those motivated by prejudice on the basis of race, religion, sexual orientation, or other specific criteria. There's nothing to tell us that we need to go that route at this time, Griffin said. Roselle, who works as a nurse, wasn't able to see her brother until midday Monday because of visitation restrictions in place to slow the spread of the novel coronavirus. She said the visit gave her hope. White was able to shake his head yes or no in response to questions and express feelings through making facial expressions, rolling his eyes and shrugging his shoulders. A nurse told the family that White's condition did a complete 180 at exactly 11 a.m. Monday. At the same time, Roselle said she would pray for her brother outside of the hospital and had invited others to do the same. If White had not been the victim in this case, he would have likely been the first to speak out against it, the sister said. He was just in the middle of the riots, speaking out against discrimination. Rizal said. He was so against hate against any one color or sexuality or anything, no matter what it was. He wanted all people to be treated equally. He'd be appalled. He'd be on the front lines right now. He'd be trying to uplift the victim. He probably would have come to my house and told me how terrible it was, asked me for a big sister hug, and wanted me to tell him everything is going to be okay. White, a native of Kaplan, had a small stature and a big bubbly personality. He had been studying education at LSU Eunice, or LSUE as residents in the area call it. He's undergone surgeries for the wrist and was weaned off sedation on Monday. Rosella said one doctor is hopeful for his recovery, although the prognosis is still grim. At the very least, White will require several months of physical therapy and trauma counseling. Rosella started a GoFundMe page to offset medical expenses for White. It has raised more than $27,000 in a day. In addition to the monetary donations, the family has received an overwhelming amount of emotional support from friends, strangers, and organizations from across the country. Rizal said he knew her brother was gay from the time he was a small child. She watched him blossom from an insecure boy who wrestled with his identity into a confident young man who was finally comfortable with himself. He had some difficulty throughout his adolescence. He was in a really rough place for a while, Rizal said. The fact that he finally got to a place where he was self-confident to express who he is and not feel the judgment that comes with it. Rizal left her voice trail off as her tears took over her words. She says she thinks of her younger brother as almost more of a son because she is 8 years older than him. One doctor thought he has a small chance, Rizal said, but he's going to have a very long road ahead of him. Okay, and now it's I'll read a couple more public service announcements, and then we'll do our half-hour break with our day in history and zodiac and funerals in the Acadiana area today. Vitalant begins testing all blood donations for antibodies to COVID-19. Vitalant became the first national blood bank to test all blood donations for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. The nation's largest independent nonprofit blood collector, serving hospital patients in South Louisiana, is providing the test results to donors who need successful blood donations, which are critically needed now. The antibody test, authorized by the Food and Drug Administration, will indicate if the donor's immune system has produced antibodies to the virus, regardless of whether they ever showed symptoms. It is possible that over time, the broad use of antibody tests and clinical follow-up will provide the medical community with more information on whether a person who has recovered from COVID-19 is at a lower risk of infection, and if so, for how long. For more information, you can visit vitalant.org/COVID-free. Donations are also urged to give, donors are urged to give blood as soon as possible. Appointments are strongly recommended. If you're interested, you can contact vitalant.org or call 877-258-4825. That's 877-258-4825. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program airs weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC2, Cause 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website at unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Okay, going back into our news. Let's see what's happening today in history. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd. It's the 175th day of 2020. There are 191 potential shopping days left in the year. Today is highlighted in history on June 23rd, 1888. Abolitionist Frederick Douglass received 1 vote from the Kentucky delegation at the Republican convention in Chicago, effectively making him the first black candidate to have his name placed in nomination for U.S. president. The nomination went to Benjamin Harrison. On this date in 1868, Christopher Latham Sholes received a patent for his typewriter featuring a QWERTY keyboard. It was the first commercially successful typewriter. In 1904, President Theodore Roosevelt was nominated for a 2nd term of office at the Republican National Convention in Chicago. 1938, the Civil Aeronautics Authority was established. On this date in 1947, the Senate joined the House in overriding President Harry S. Truman's veto of the Taft-Hartley Act, designed to limit the power of organized labor. In 1969, Warren E. Burger was sworn in as Chief Justice of the United States by the man he was succeeding, Earl Warren. In 1972, President Richard Nixon and White House Chief of Staff H.R. Haldeman discussed using the CIA to obstruct the FBI's Watergate investigation. Revelation of the tape recording of this conversation sparked Nixon's resignation in 1974. On this date also, President Nixon signed the Title IX barring discrimination, or Title X barring discrimination on the basis of sex for any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. In 1985, all 329 people on board an Air India Boeing 747 were killed when the plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near Ireland because of a bomb authorities believe was planted by Sikh separatists. 1988, James E. Hansen, a climatologist at the Goddard Institute for Space Studies, told a Senate panel that global warming on the Earth caused by the greenhouse effect was a reality. In 1993, in a case that drew widespread attention, Lorena Bobbitt of Prince William County, Virginia, sexually mutilated her husband, John, after he had allegedly raped her. John Bobbitt was later acquitted of marital sexual assault. Lorena Bobbitt was later acquitted of malicious wounding by reason of insanity. And on this date in 2009, Tonight Show sidekick Ed McMahon died in Los Angeles at 86. 10 years ago, following General Stanley McChrystal's criticism of the Obama administration in the Rolling Stone magazine profile, President Barack Obama named General David Petraeus to replace the Afghanistan commander. 5 years ago, WikiLeaks published documents it said showed the U.S. National Security Agency had eavesdropped on the last 3 French presidents, releasing material that appeared to capture officials in Paris talking candidly about Greece's economy, relations with Germany, and ironically, American espionage. 1 year ago, Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg faced criticism by angry residents of South Bend, Indiana, where he was mayor, at an emotional town hall meeting a week after a white police officer fatally shot a black man there. Buttigieg said he would call for an outside investigation. Today's birthdays: singer Diane Trask is 80 years old. Musical conductor James Levine is 77. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is 72. American Idol ex-judge Randy Jackson is 64. Actress Frances McDormand is 63. And rhythm and blues singer Chico DeBarge from the group DeBarge is 50 years old. Looking at the zodiac or the horoscope, if you're a Cancer, you can go over personal documents and make adjustments, staying on top of your finances and working on a plan that will help you cut your overhead will ease stress. Leos, adapt to the inevitable, but don't initiate a change without sufficient information or verification. Choose to make self-improvements instead of trying to change others. Virgo, my birth sign, Be strict when it comes to your health and well-being. Set rules to live by and strive to teach or reach your daily goals. Make fitness, proper diet, and money management priorities. Libra, look for experiences that help you keep up with current trends. An online course that can teach you something new will lead to a unique opportunity. Explore your creative options. Scorpio, don't let uncertainty hold you back. Ask questions, verify facts, and check out the best way to use your skills. Go ahead. Jump at the chance to make a positive change. Sagittarius, problems at home will escalate if you can't work things out peacefully. Take better care of your physical and emotional health. Handle money matters cautiously. Capricorn, a useful home base will make your life easier. Discuss your plans with people you live with to ensure that you're all on the same page. Aquarius, fix up your surroundings to suit your needs. Personal gains look promising if you proceed with your plans carefully. Romance and physical improvements are favored. Pisces, reach out to people you haven't seen for a long time and set up a virtual reunion. Sharing information will encourage you to help others. Aries, situations will get blown out of proportion. Don't leave yourself open for verbal abuse or undue blame. Go about your business and finish what you start. Taurus, an opportunity to improve your situation at home or work will arise. Don't miss out because you are too busy making unnecessary changes. Concentrate on what's essential and excel. And finally, Gemini, your strength and courage will help you reach your goal. Inhale as much information as you can and use it to get ahead. And as always, the horoscope is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. In the funerals today in the Keniana area, Lorena Gilbo, St. Charles Borromeo Roman Catholic Church at 11 a.m., and Willis Paradin, Chapel of Louisiana funeral services at 108 Hardware Road in Broussard at 4 p.m. Okay, going back to Acadiana stories, officer accused of beating teen to remain on paid leave. NAACP pushes Opelousas Department to fire him by Ben Myers staff writer. Opelousas Police Sergeant Tyrone Angelpont will keep his job for the immediate future, even with 5 pending felony charges related to his alleged assault of a black teenager who was hospitalized. Mayor Julius Alcindor said Angelpont will remain on paid leave until a departmental investigation wraps up, at which time the elected police chief, Martin McClendon, will present the findings of the city council. The council must approve any decision to terminate Angelpont. Alcindor, speaking at an NAACP news briefing, said it will be imprudent of him to comment on the departmental investigation, including its time frame for completion, though he said he's pretty confident it won't be long. Council will have to take those recommendations under advisement and make a good, rational decision on the information that's presented to him, Alcindor said. St. Landry Parish chapter of the NAACP is calling for the firing of Angelpont, who was charged this month with 5 counts of felony malfeasance in connection with his handling of an October 2019 call to Opelousas General Health System South Campus. The charges followed a 6-month state police investigation. Angelpont had been on leave since mid-November. If convicted on all malfeasance counts, Angelpont could face a maximum of 25 years in prison if time is served consecutively and would lose his post-law enforcement certification. A probable case affidavit said Angelpont struck 18-year-old Jonah Coleman in the face at least once, causing his head to snap backwards and put his right arm around Jonah's neck in a chokehold, among other acts of battery, the document said. Coleman had been admitted to the hospital and was not being held or investigated for any suspicion of criminal activity, according to his attorney, Darrell Washington. It's not clear why hospital staff called police in the first place or what prompted Angelpont to use force. Washington had previously said Angelpont totally overreacted in using inhumane force against Coleman, who was not threatening anyone. The NAACP chapter president, the Reverend Frank Force, said on Monday that Adjupont must be fired immediately given his record of unjustified force against Black residents. He has displayed these type of behaviors, negative behaviors against people of color for more than 10 years. Who knows what he's going to do next? Ford was referring to an incident more than 10 years ago in which Adjupont was accused of being an Opelousas minister, Elton Sam, because he believed Sam was stealing from a Goodwill store. In fact, Sam's house had burned down and the items in his possession had been donated to him. Not only did Adjupont administer force unnecessarily, he also failed to properly question Sam before jumping to conclusions. That incident resulted in a lawsuit that remains active. He's a liability to the police force. He's a liability to the city in more ways than one, Ford said. Lafayette and others temporarily close. Here's the latest on the COVID-19 coronavirus. Virus cases increase in Lafayette by Megan White and Ben Myers, staff writers. As the number of known coronavirus cases in Louisiana continues to rise, some Lafayette business owners are taking matters into their own hands, opting to temporarily close to keep employees and customers safe. LaFonda, Tex-Mex favorite on Johnson Street, announced Monday it will be closing temporarily after an employee tested positive from COVID-19. To play our part in keeping ourselves and our community safe, we will be temporarily closed for testing and thorough sanitizing, restaurant management wrote on Facebook. This is an isolated event, but we need to take all necessary precautions to ensure the safety of our customers and staff. Downtown bars, Marley's and Nighttown, announced over the weekend they would be closed for the foreseeable future to help prevent further spread of the virus. George Favaloro, who is part owner of both bars, told Hot 107.9 in a statement that none of the employees at either establishment had tested positive. Instead, the closure is precautionary. After much discussion with my staff concerning the recent spike of COVID-19 cases among college students, we made a business decision based on the safety of our staff and customers to not open Saturday night, Favaloro wrote in a statement to the radio station. With it being Father's Day weekend, the safety and well-being of our staff, customers, and the people that they will come in contact with came first. In Monday's report from the Louisiana Department of Health, the quickening spread of coronavirus in the region surrounding Lafayette Parish was evident over the last 3 days, both in terms of raw case count and test positivity rate. Lafayette Parish saw a 9.1 positive test rate over the past 3 days, with 130 new cases reported alongside 1,433 tests. 2 weeks ago, from June 6th through the 8th, the parish reported 43 cases with 516 tests for a positive rate of 8.3%. The positive rate in the Acadiana region over the past 3 days was 8.2%, compared with 7.7% from June 6th to June 8th. Governor John Bel Edwards cited an alarming increase of coronavirus cases in Acadiana and other parts of the state on Monday when announcing the state would delay moving to phase 3 of its reopening plan. State officials have been unequivocal that the new cases are not solely attributable to more testing, but data glitches in recent days have made it difficult to compare results over the last week with earlier time periods. Staff reporting has been free of backlogs and other anomalies for 3 days in a row, making it possible to compare this period with the Saturday through Monday stretch earlier this month. That comparison shows case counts accelerating faster than testing in Lafayette, Acadiana, and the entire state. Over the past week, other Lafayette businesses have announced closures in recent response to the spike in positive cases. Tsunami closed Wednesday and Thursday after an employee tested positive for the virus. The downtown sushi restaurant reopened with limited hours Friday and Saturday. Blanche's Barbecue closed Friday and Saturday after an asymptomatic employee notified restaurant owners of a positive COVID-19 test result. The restaurant will reopen June 30th after previously scheduled closure this week for vacation. Not all businesses and organizations are taking the same approach, however. City Club of River Ranch notified members on June 10th that 3 employees had tested positive for the virus, but the club remained open. Likewise, 3 Public Works employees in Youngsville tested positive for the virus the same week, but city services continued largely uninterrupted. Some employees of restaurants and retailers have shared their frustration over businesses staying open after workers test positive for the virus, saying they're worried for their own safety and that of other people. And while many businesses have taken extra precautions to safeguard workers and employees, some have openly defied the recommendation of elected officials and public health authorities. Dupuis in Abbeville recently posted a sign on his store to let customers know that staff would no longer wear face masks due to health concerns and performance issues for employees. We apologize for an inconvenience to you that this may cause, the restaurant sign said. To-go orders are available if this is an issue for you personally. LCG to spend $100,000 to test workers by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Lafayette Consolidated Government plans to spend $100,000 to test employees for COVID-19. The LCG Professional Services Review Committee on Friday recommended safety management systems to conduct employee testing and monitoring for coronavirus at an estimated cost of $100,000. LCG employs around 2,400 full and part-time employees, according to Jamie Angel, Chief Communications Officer. Not all will be tested, he said. Employees who operate in the field, Angel said, and are in direct contact with the public, such as LUS or Lafayette Utility System workers, will be tested and monitored. The $100,000 will come from the Parish Public Health Fund, he said, and is reimbursable through the Federal CARES Act. If the tests were not provided free to employees, Angel said full-time workers have health insurance that should cover the cost, but part-time employees are not insured through LCG. Free COVID-19 tests are available in the parish, but Angel said a business can't force an employee to go on their own and take a medical test. Free medical testing is available at several places in Acadiana. You can visit ldh.la.gov/index/cfm/page/3934 for locations. In Lafayette, the Louisiana Office of Public Health and National Guard Mobile Unit will be providing free testing on Thursdays at the Super One store, 215 West Willow Street in Lafayette. Police seek gunmen in injuring one person on Evelyn Street. Lafayette police are looking for the person responsible for a Sunday shooting that injured one person on Evelyn Street. Officers responded about 4:45 p.m. Sunday in the 100 block of Evelyn Street, where they located a victim suffering from a gunshot wound to his face, police said. The victim was treated for injuries at the scene and out of hospital, but has since been released. The gunman fled the scene prior to the officer's arrival. A Jennings man was killed in a tractor crash. A Jennings man died Sunday in a single-vehicle tractor crash on US 90 east of Mermentau. State Police Trooper 1 said Frank Zonbrecker, 43, is operating a New Holland articulating farm tractor about 4 p.m. on US 90 west near 13th Street, when for unknown reasons a tractor ran, according to the preliminary investigation by state police. The Acadia Parish Coroner's Office pronounced Zonbrecker dead at the scene. Southbound in a 2001 Ford Explorer north of LA 29 when his vehicle left the roadway, struck a guardrail, and overturned in the median. Destiny 8, a passenger, suffered fatal injuries. St. Landry Parish Coroner's Office pronounced her dead at the scene. Donald H., who was unrestrained, was ejected from the vehicle and suffered moderate injuries. A 7-month-old child, properly restrained, suffered minor injuries. Donald H. and the child were transported to a hospital for treatment. Okay. Small business dispersals could begin in July. Treasurer, about $300 million in grants available by Mark Ballard, Capital Bureau editor. State Treasurer John Schroeder said Monday he hopes to start in July distributing about $300 million in federal coronavirus aid funds to small businesses under a program for which more than 450 businesses are estimated to be eligible. He's still working out the details for the grants of up to $15,000 per business since Governor John Bel Edwards last week signed legislation pushed by Republican lawmakers to divert some of the federal money aimed mostly at local government. Schroeder wanted to distribute the funds by December. Our job is to get this money out as quickly as we can, Schroeder said. The $2 trillion coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security act allocated $1.8 billion to Louisiana. Much of the money fills shortfalls in state revenues used to pay for state services to balance the state operating budget. Another $811 million was destined for local governments. Edwards is in charge of distributing the remaining $565 million allocated to local governments for expenses related to coronavirus. The figure was $511 million, but lawmakers added an additional injection to the funds. The first $150 million will start going out next week, Commissioner of Administration Jay Darden said. Schroeder estimates about 450,000 small business owners, about 64,000 of whom are minorities, women, or veterans, could be eligible for the program. They employ about 905,000 people and account for 53% of the state's employment. Schroeder said he's looking to build a computer system that doesn't crash on the first day when a tsunami of applications is expected. He's also hoping to have call centers, field agents, and advisory councils to reach out directly to small business owners who either don't have access to the internet or are intimidated by computers. The program is employing the Louisiana Legislative Auditor, which is facile with all the various details and strings that come down with the federal grants, Schroeder said. And finally, we have a sports story. Cajun's surprise offer pays huge dividends in landing Guidry. Dunham, tight end, was prepared to move to South Carolina this summer until UL called by Kevin Foote, sports staff writer for The Advocate. Until a few weeks ago, Rhett Guidry at the Dunham School in Baton Rouge was planning on making a big move to South Carolina later this summer. Just recently turning 18, the two-way high school standout has made known his plan to attend Palmetto Prep School there and then become part of the 2021 recruiting class. In fact, Pittsburgh and Akron had already made him early offers for that period as a tight end. But the UL Raging Cajuns had other ideas, surprising Guidry with a tight end offer of their own for this year's class, and it worked. I had moved on mentally, so when the Cajuns offered me, it came as a bombshell to me, said Guidry. So Guidry took a few days to consider this major shift in his plans. He took the virtual tour of UL's facilities and decided to pull the trigger. During the back and forth sessions with his family, the uncertainties surrounding the coronavirus worked in the Cajuns' favor. Because of all the uncertainty about next season and how everything was going to play out, I decided the best bet was to take the scholarship. The 6'5", 225-pound Guidry said. Postgraduate football isn't too much of an importance nationwide, so I figured that would be the first to go if they decided to take away football. I just wanted to play. I was just looking for some place to get on the field, and UL was a great place for that. UL's troubles with a tight end position throughout the 2019 season also played a role in Guidry's decision. Johnny Lumpkin suffered a season-ending injury late August, and Chase Rogers transferred to Ole Miss. Nick Ralston's 1 year as a graduate transfer is over. There are needs at that position that played into it as well, Guidry said. I figured I had the ability to fill that void. There was also some familiarity between UL offensive coordinator Rob Sale and Dunham head coach Dale Weiner. The two worked together at Catholic High of Point Coupee in 2006. By some standards, he could have played another year of high school football, Weiner said. He got a lot of toughness. He's a real scrapper and fighter. He's played through some pain and injury. he didn't come off the field much for us. I just think his character and what he's made up of makes him a great fit for Coach Billy Napier and his staff. They use at least one tight end on just about every play, and a lot of times they use two tight ends. Gidry played quarterback at times during his high school career. He primarily played defensive end and tight end last season for Dunham, earning all-district MVP honors after collecting 49.5 tackles, 16.5 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks that forced him to miss the remainder of the game. Dunham's base offense was typically a four-receiver set with limited tight end use. The decision to go to a prep school, Gidry was told he could be a walk-on, but that things could always change. Well, things did change, Winder says, so they called him and it worked out. Gidry said a new plan is to join UL's program shortly after the July 4th holiday. He's convinced he's ready physically to complete thanks to his family building a workout station in his backyard to continue conditioning during the coronavirus shutdown. I stayed in shape pretty well and I'm fired up to get going, he insisted. Well, that's about all for the news this morning. I just want to read a couple of other public service announcements. If you are feeling overwhelmed with stress and fear and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding public health emergency or the coronavirus pandemic, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained and compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7. All calls are confidential. Call 1-866-310-7977. That's 866-310-7977. Locally, you can dial 311 for COVID-19 updates and information, or you can go to the website 311 Lafayette. Also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner, employee, or looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, how to apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. So that's about it for this morning's Tuesday's edition of our news coverage for the Acadiana and for the state of Louisiana news. We appreciate you tuning in. We do this every Monday through Friday from 9 to 10 a.m. in the morning. And I believe we're still doing replays, but I'll check with my mentor, my mentor engineer, Matt, on that. But I believe we do a rebroadcast at 3 p.m. on our Cypress Street Radio streaming live. We also have, you can listen to and follow us on aocinc.org. If you're interested in becoming a newspaper reading volunteer like myself, you can go to that page, to our homepage, find the form to fill out to become a newspaper reader volunteer, and come join the family. As always, as I say every morning, this has been Bruce. I wish you to be healthy. I wish you to be safe. I wish you to be thoughtful. Go out there, wear your mask, do whatever you need to do to stop the spread. Please, let's all take care of each other. This is a crucial time that we all need to help each other out to get through this situation that we're in. And we have to do it together and adhere to the protocols. So please, continue to do that. So this has been the news. Thank you. Good morning, Acadiana, and you have a great day, and we'll see you on the rebound. Have a great day.